I am not in favor necessarily of outside groups explaining to the Republicans in the House and Senate what tactics they use. I'm much more interested in the principles and the overall strategy. The Republicans in the House and the Senate, leadership, backbenchers, everybody, are completely committed to delaying Obamacare, replacing it with something that works. They've had votes. The president, mocks how many votes they've had to amend it or get rid of it. He has actually signed 6 bills that amend his legislation, so he shouldn't make fun of the fact that people have been trying to fix it for him now that he realizes that it needs fixing, or admits that it needs fixing. He's 6 times signed bills the Republicans put forward to say, hey, you got a problem here, let's fix it. So if he'd work with the Republicans in Congress to fix the problems in his bill, he wouldn't be in this embarrassing position that he kind of put himself in.
Let's get to phone calls. Lewis is watching us in New Jersey, Republican caller. Hi, Lewis, you're on the air with Grover Norquist.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
New Jersey, you voted yet?
No, I didn't vote today or yesterday. I've been working. Let's just get to the facts here. The train wreck that Democrats are worried about is not Obamacare, what it's going to cause the American people. They're worried about what Obamacare is going to cause to the 2014 elections to the Democrats if it's put through. Trust me, these guys aren't worried about the American people. They're worried about getting reelected. And you touched a good fact about fundraising. 80% of Democrats' fundraising is from big business, contrary to popular belief that the Democrats like to say that, they're not in league with big business. And if this goes through, big business will pull out all their fundraising, and these guys will, they just won't have any money. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, Grover Norquist.
Okay. I think you're quite correct that a lot of the focus is on the 2014 elections. And that's why I think we actually have an opportunity to get a 1-year delay in the Obamacare taxes, the Obamacare regulations, the Obamacare mandates, all of the parts of Obamacare. If we delay it for a year, just past the 2014 election, it's good because the bill is structured as damaging to the country and to people's health care. This is not good to mess around with people's access to and quality of health care, which is what the present bill does, the present law does. I think if we can delay it for a year, partly because so many Democrats recognize that they don't want to be running in 2014, particularly in the Senate, with this kind of disaster. There are a lot of, every single Democrat in the Senate voted for this. Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, she's up for re-election. She runs in Louisiana as if she was some sort of moderate Democrat. She's just a yes vote for Obama on everything. Obama's been trying to crush the oil industry, and she's done nothing to protect it. The state has been badly damaged by President Obama's policies against oil and energy production in Louisiana, and Mary Landrieu stands there and does nothing. So she's got to run for re-election. She doesn't need the people of Louisiana reminded that not only has she been part of attacking their major industry in their state, but that she was also the person who gave them this mess of Obamacare. So there are a whole series of challenges, and I think that's why it's possible to get a year's delay in Obamacare. I think that when we focus on it for a year, the American people say, we can do better, and won't be just a delay of a year, but we'll get rid of it. But it does leave the door open, and so some Democrats could, with a straight face, and maintaining their pride, step back from the mistake they made when they voted for a bill that they hadn't ever read.
Lynn Holly Hansen tweets in this for you. Grover Norquist, why does GOP keep saying the U.S. citizens don't want the Affordable Care Act when the president was elected again running on the Affordable Care Act?
Well, because polling, which asks just about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, says people don't like it. Obama beat Romney, and there are a whole series of issues on the table there. If it had been a referendum on Obamacare, Romney would be president. But he didn't make it one, largely because he had passed something kind of similar to this in Massachusetts that also has many, many challenges and problems. And despite his other assets and virtues, it made him a flawed candidate for the presidency at a time when it should have been, as the tweeter, we're the tweeties, the tweeter, suggests that would have been a more powerful issue. It certainly was in 2010, could have been in 12 if a Republican who could have stood up and said, I told you it was a bad idea, I was against it, I'm against it now. Romney couldn't do that.
A follow-up here from Jeff Roscoe on Twitter, who says, Grover Norquist, what was the last large piece of legislation that required no editing after being passed?
Well, they often do. And the president, because there shouldn't be 3,000-page pieces of legislation. One of the things that the Republicans said that they would do is that they would put bills online for several days before they get voted on. And they've largely been able to do that since Boehner became Speaker. Now that we have the web and the Internet, it's easy to put it online. Actually, Speaker Gingrich, who first put all legislation online, bills that were introduced went online. Used to be in this town, law firms would get paid a lot of money to go down and Xerox these bills, and then they and their clients would have access to what was in the bill. But somebody in Kansas would have no way of getting their hands on a piece of legislation as it moved through the process. Now it's largely online. This was not done with Obamacare. Frankly, I'm very pleased that the Republicans who have put forward the Ryan budget plan have written it down, voted for it repeatedly. It's in writing. You can go online and see what the Ryan reforms do to save welfare and entitlements so that they stay there but don't go bankrupt. Having an open system where you say to the American people, here's what we're doing, and if you elect us, here's what we'll pass, is better than when Obama ran. He said, I'm going to do really cool stuff and it won't cost anything and you can keep your doctor. Well, none of that was true. If he'd had to write it down ahead of time, he might not have gotten elected.
Let me go to June in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Independent call. Hi, June.
Hi. Well, first of all, Mr. Norquist, the deficit is going down. And it's just amazing to hear you and so many other Republicans, including John Boehner, who keeps saying, oh, spending is out of control, the deficit is going down thanks to President Obama, and nobody is acknowledging that. Well, nobody on the Republican side, you know, and it's also untrue that the Republicans did not say, let's shut down the government. The president was only stating what they said. They've said it, and they mean it, and they're proud of it. And also, one more thing. As far as, you know, taxes and America, how about talking to your friends on the Republican side about getting that American Jobs Act passed? Anything to help the president look good is bad for America. That's insane.
All right, we'll leave it there, June.
Okay. Well, the Republicans in the House have passed more than a dozen bills to help create jobs that have not seen the light of day in the Senate. That's unfortunate, and it's cost us. The recovery, this nation has technically been in recovery since 6 months into the Obama presidency. We've been in recovery since July of 2009. It is the weakest recovery in the history of this country, at least since the end of World War II. We've been growing it on an average of 2.2% a year. That's French levels, not American levels. Historically, Americans, the economies rebounded at 4% a year after a recession. If we had grown at Reagan levels, because Reagan took a different approach, instead of spending more and taxing more and regulating more, he reined in regulations, limited the growth of government, and actually cut marginal tax rates rather than raise them. We'd have millions more Americans at work. There are millions of Americans out of work today because the president took a high-tax, big government, European-style economic policy rather than the traditional lower tax, less spending, less regulation American policies. And that's why we're in the bad situation. And the president, you talked about the president's jobs bill. That's what he calls it. It's another spending bill. It's another Solyndra. It's like the previous stimulus package, which saw employment fall, not increase, which saw the lousy economic numbers that we have still to this day. We have a very weak economy. You then earlier said, why are you complaining about spending since the deficit's less of a problem?